Hello everyone and a warm welcome back to day 6 of our comprehensive ESL Teacher Masterclass series on Universal English with Happy. I am Happy Verma, your English language coach, and I am absolutely delighted to have you joining me today. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode in this masterclass series. To all our returning educators, welcome back. Today, we are tackling one of the single most requested, most crucial topics in all the language pedagogy: running your classroom, keeping students engaged. Think about your own teaching experiences for a moment. Have you ever spent hours creating a flawless lesson plan only to walk into class and face disengaged, hesitant, or bored students? Have you ever felt the energy in the room drop like a stone after just 15 minutes? Or perhaps you have struggled with a classroom where three advanced students answer every question while five quiet students sit in total silence. If you answered yes to any of those questions, rest assured, you are not alone. Classroom management and engagement are skills that every great teacher must continuously refine. Over the next session, we are going to break down the exact strategies, psychological principles, and practical techniques you need to turn your classroom into an active, high energy language learning ecosystem. We will cover four main areas today: selecting content that stimulates curiosity, managing pacing and energy so learners stay hooked, using smart differentiation for mixed ability classes, and providing error correction that empowers rather than discourages. Grab your favorite notebook, get comfortable, and let's divide into our roadmap for today. Let's map out our journey for today's session so you know exactly what to expect. We have structured this masterclass into four distinct, high practical modules. In part 1, we focus on choosing materials and activities. We will examine Stephen Krashen's input hypothesis, the balance between authentic and scaffolded content, and how to select materials that naturally provoke discussion. In part 2, we explore pacing and energy. Pacing is the rhythm of a lesson. We will look at attention cycles, how to use 10-minute reset, four active participation techniques like warm calling and think, pair, share, and how to maintain a strict 70% student talk time ratio. In part 3, we tackle teaching mixed level classes. Differentiation is often terrifying for new teachers, but we will simplify it into three core pillars: tired tasks, flexible grouping, and adjustable scaffolding, complete with a practical task matrix. Finally, in part 4, we master giving feedback that helps. We will differentiate between accuracy and fluency correction, explore delayed feedback techniques, and walk through our four-step feedback loop. By the end of this session, you will possess a complete toolkit for running an engaging, dynamic, and student-centered classroom. Let's look at how these four components interact. Engagement is not something that happens by accident or luck. It is direct result of alignment across these four fundamental pillars on slide 3. Think of engagement like a four-legged chair. If one leg is broken, the chair becomes unstable. If your material selection is poor, say reading a dense grammar article to 10-year-olds or teaching childish songs to business executives, students disengage immediately. If your pacing is flat, if you speak in a monotone voice for 40 minutes without student output, students drift off into daydreams or check their phones. If you ignore your mixed level dynamics, your weaker students fall into helpless despair, while your stronger students get bored and disruptive. And if your feedback technique is overly harsh or intrusive, students stop raising their hands because they fear public embarrassment. When you align all four, bringing relevant materials, delivering lively pacing, scaffolding for every ability, and giving supportive feedback, your classroom transforms. Students stop being passive observers and become active language users. Let's examine Pillar 1 in detail. Welcome to Part 1. It's all about choosing materials and activities, selecting engaging, level appropriate content. As language educators, the textbook or materials we bring into the room act as the primary catalyst for interaction. However, many teachers make the mistake of following a textbook page by page without evaluating whether the content actually serves their students' real world needs or cognitive level. In this module, we are going to look at how to select and adapt content so that it sparks immediate curiosity, builds confidence, and pushes students toward genuine linguistic development. Let's examine the four golden rules of material selection displayed on slide 5. Rule number 1 is Stephen Krashen's famous I plus 1 principle, also known as the input hypothesis. In simple terms, I represents the student's current level of language proficiency, and plus 1 represents language input that is just one step beyond their current capacity. If you provide materials at I plus 0, which is also one other formula, students encounter zero new challenge. They become bored and disengaged. If you provide materials at I plus 3, that is also one of the formulas, the language gap is too wide, leading to affective filter breakdown, which means anxiety spikes and comprehension collapses. Target that sweet spot where students comprehend about 80% to 90% of the context very easily and must deduce or acquire the remaining 10% to 20% through active thinking. Rule number 2 is contextual relevance. Just ask yourself, does this matter to my students' lives? If you are teaching working adults in a corporate setting, give them real world scenarios like negotiation role plays, presentation slides, or email writing. If you are teaching teenagers, frame tasks around social media trends, technology, or youth culture. Rule number 3 is finding the right balance between authentic and scaffolded materials. Authentic materials such as real news broadcasts, podcasts, or restaurant menus show real English in action. However, raw authentic content can overwhelm lower level learners. The solution is scaffolding. Add pre-reading vocabulary glossaries. Break audio into 30-second clips or provide comprehension guides. Rule number 4 is multimodal variety. Don't rely solely on reading texts. Alternate between visuals, audio, video clips, and tactile realia to engage visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning preferences. To make this actionable, let's look at the material selection matrix on slide this. We have divided language learners into two broad categories to guide your lesson planning. On the left, we have beginner and intermediate focus. Primary goal. Your main goal here is building emotional security, core vocabulary, and structural accuracy. Lower level learners often feel vulnerable when speaking a new language. Recommended content. Use visual flashcards, guided sentence frames, such as, in my opinion, think about it, is better than, again, think about it, because, then again, think about it. Structured dialogues, concrete realia, like physical objects, timetables, and receipts, and short video clips with English subtitles. These provide visual anchors that keep anxiety low and output high. On the right, we have upper intermediate and advanced focus. Primary goal here is basic comprehension is already established. Your focus shifts to fostering critical thinking, subtle nuances, idiomatic fluency, and unscripted spontaneity. And the recommended content bring in something authentic like news editorials, unscripted podcasts, debate prompts with no clear right answer, real world case studies, and complex problem solving tasks. Now, here you can notice the shift. At lower levels, materials provide heavy structure. At higher levels, materials act as open ended catalysts for discussion and debate. Now, let's transition into part 2, pacing, energy, and participation techniques. Have you ever noticed how fast the session goes by when you are watching a great movie versus how slow a session feels when you are stuck in a boring waiting room? Time is subjective. In a language classroom, pacing is the art of orchestrating time and energy so that students feel energized, focused, and constantly moving forward. Here, we are going to focus on maintaining high cognitive energy. A common misconception among new teachers is that good pacing means rushing through activities at breakneck speed. That is false. Rushing causes panic. You must have seen it in your life. Good pacing is about rhythm and variety. It means shifting between periods of intense focus and periods of relaxed synthesis, moving smoothly between individual reflection, pair work, and whole class interaction. Pay close attention to the 10-minute reset. Cognitive psychology research shows that human attention span, especially for cognitive tasks in the second language, starts to dip after roughly 10 to 12 minutes of continuous activity. If you speak continuously for 20 minutes, student attention drops precipitously. To prevent this, implement a mini reset every 10 minutes. This doesn't mean stopping the lesson. It simply means changing the physical or cognitive dynamic. For example, if students have been reading quietly for 8 minutes, reset by having them stand up and whisper three key ideas to a partner. If you have been explaining a grammar rule on the board for 7 minutes, reset by handing out mini whiteboards and running a 60-second rapid fire practice drill. These micro shifts keep brain energy high throughout a long session. Here we outline 4 research backed participation techniques that guarantee maximum active involvement while eliminating student anxiety. Technique 1, warm calling. We all know called means cold and cold means called. Here there is a difference we will definitely learn about in the later sessions. We all know cold calling, suddenly pointing to a quiet student and asking, "Hey, John, what is the answer to question 4?" Cold calling creates immediate spike anxiety, causing the student's brain to freeze up. Warm calling solves this. Say, in 60 seconds, I am going to ask 3 people to share their answer: John, Sarah, and Alex. Prepare your thoughts. This gives students time to formulate their response in English before speaking publicly. Technique 2, think, pair, share. This is a masterclass classic. First, give students 1 minute of silent think time to write down ideas. Second, put them into pairs of 2 minutes to discuss and refine their answers together. Third, share with a larger group because students have already rehearsed their thoughts with a peer. Public speaking anxiety drops by over 80%, and it is proven. Technique 3. Choral response. When introducing new vocabulary, collocations, or target structures, have the entire class repeat after you in unison. Choral response allows lower confidence students to practice vocalizing difficult English sounds under the safety of collective noise. Technique 4. Interactive polling. Instead of asking, does everyone understand, and getting silent nods, use interactive polling. Have students raise colored cards, red for confused and green for clear. You can choose your own as well. Use hand signals, 1 to 5 fingers, or answers via digital tools. This requires 100% active response from every single student in the room simultaneously. Now, what I consider the absolute golden rule of communicative language teaching, the 70-30 student talk time rule, which we also call STT rule. Ask yourself honestly, during a typical class session, who does most of the talking? In traditional teacher-centric classrooms, the teacher talks 70% to 80% of the time, leaving students with just 20% of time in which they can talk, divided among 15 to 20 people. That means each student might only speak English for 1 or 2 minutes per hour. Language acquisition requires active output. You cannot learn to swim by watching someone swim. And you cannot learn to speak English by listening to a teacher lecture about grammar. Your goal is to restrict teacher talk time, that is TTT, to 30% or less. Limit TTT to brief instructions, clear modeling, and concise feedback. Expand student talk time, which we call STT, to 70%. How do you achieve this? Shift individual exercises into pair discussions. Turn reading tasks into jigsaw peer teaching activities and replace teacher explanations with concept check questions, CCQs, where students explain rules to each other. When STT increases, student engagement skyrockets. And now I would like to welcome to part 3. Teaching mixed level classes. Effective differentiation strategies for diverse learners. Here is a universal truth in language education. Pure homogeneous classes do not exist. Even in a class labeled B1, which we call intermediate, you will have students who excel at speaking but struggle with writing, alongside students who know every grammar rule perfectly but freeze up when speaking. How do we run a classroom so that stronger students aren't bored while weaker students aren't left behind? Let's look at differentiation. Now let's talk about pillar 1. Tiered tasks. Tiered tasks mean keeping the core topic, reading text, or theme identical for the entire class, but varying the complexity of the required output. Everyone participates in the same lesson topic, preserving classroom unity, but the task depth matches learner readiness. Pillar 2. Flexible grouping. Never lock students into fixed, permanent seating arrangements. Strategically, rotate your grouping strategy. Heterogeneous pairing, which we call mixed ability. Pair a stronger student with a weaker student for peer coaching. The stronger student deepens their understanding by explaining concepts, while the weaker student receives supportive peer scaffolding. Homogeneous grouping, which we call similar ability. Group lower level students together so you can provide intensive direct teacher support, while higher level groups tackle an autonomous extension challenge. Now, pillar 3. Smart scaffolding. Scaffolding is support that is gradually removed as competence increases. Offer optional word banks, sentence starters, or graphic organizers. Weaker students rely on them heavily. while stronger students are encouraged to complete the task without assistance. To see how differentiation works in practice, look at the differentiated task matrix on this slide. Imagine your lesson topic is technology and modern life. For emerging learners A1 to A2, the target is going to be building foundational understanding and basic structure. Here the scaffolding is to provide visual vocabulary banks and fill in the blank sentence frames. And here we could expect the output, which is really simple sentences like I use my phone for this purpose because it is this. For expanding learners, B1 to B2 level, the target is functional fluency and paragraph production. The scaffolding could provide transitional phrase lists and structured paragraph outlines. And here the expected output could be connected opinion paragraphs and guided peer discussions, comparing advantages and disadvantages. For bridging learners, level C1 to C2, the target is nuanced argument, advanced vocabulary, and spontaneous debate. The scaffolding could provide minimal prompts, giving them an authentic news, quote, or controversial policy statement. Here, the expected output could be unscripted mini debates, critical analysis, or acting as peer facilitator for other groups. Notice how every student explores technology and modern life, but each tier operates at an appropriate cognitive and linguistic channel level. Now, I would like to welcome to the part 4 of this session, giving feedback that helps, error correction techniques that build confidence. Error correction is one of the most delicate aspects of teaching. Correct too much and you crush students' motivation and create silence. Correct too little and students fossilize language errors and fail to improve. In this final module, we will explore how to correct errors constructively so that feedback feels like a gift rather than a punishment. Here, we are going to address one of the biggest mistakes teachers make, correcting fluency activities as if there were accuracy drills. Look at the left column, immediate correction for accuracy. Now, when to use it? Use immediate correction during explicit grammar practice, pronunciation drills, and controlled sentence formation where precision is the primary goal. Techniques you could use subtle visual gestures, finger correction, so counting words on your fingers to show missing articles or verbs, or gentle questioning like past or present. Here, avoid interrupting harshly. Now look at the right column. Delayed correction for fluency. Now, when to use it? During free discussions, role plays, presentations, or communicative games where the goal is flow and meaning transfer. Now, the techniques here should be for you. Never interrupt a student mid sentence during a fluency task. Doing so destroys their train of thought and increases speaking anxiety. Instead, walk around quietly with a notepad. Note down 4 or 5 common linguistic errors anonymously. After the activity concludes, write those sentences on the whiteboard with the errors included. Host a fun collaborative class error technique where the entire class works together to spot and fix the errors. Students love this because nobody is publicly signaled out. In this slide, I would like to point out 4-step feedback loop, a systematic method for correcting errors effectively in real time. Step number 1. Observe. Listen actively, distinguish between a slip, a minor mistake due to tiredness or speed, and a systematic error, a genuine lack of language knowledge. Step number 2. Elicit. Before giving the correct answer, give the student or class a chance to self correct. Here you take a pause. Repeat the sentence up to the mistake with rising intonation or ask, how can we make that sentence sound more natural? Self correction builds long term neutral pathways. Step number 3. Model. If self-correction fails, provide a clear, natural reformulation. Use an encouraging tone. Step 4. Reapply. This is the step most teachers skip. Once you provide the correct form, always have the student repeat the full corrected sentence in context immediately. Don't just accept a nod of understanding. Require vocal reapplication so the correct form registers in muscle memory. Here you should take a moment to look at this slide and internalize this philosophical insight. Just keep it in mind. Errors are not evidence of failure. They are the natural footprint of active language acquisition. As language teachers, our ultimate goal is to foster a classroom culture where mistakes are normalized and celebrated as evidence of learning. When your students realize that making an error will never lead to ridicule or harsh judgment in your room, fear disappears. And when fear disappears, real communication begins automatically. That brings us to the final portion of our session, Masterclass today. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground together. From material selection and I plus 1 formula to 10-minute resets and 70% student talk time, through to differentiation matrices and delayed error correction. I want to invite all of you to become an active part of our growing global educator community right here on Universal English with Happy. Here are 4 or depend upon you would like to take actions immediately. Steps you can take right now just to support your professional teaching journey. First of all, click the subscribe button below to join thousands of dedicated education providers worldwide, particularly the English educators worldwide. Check the video description box below and think about it. Has it made an impact on you or not? Head down to the comment section and share. What is your single favorite technique for engaging shy students in class? I read and reply to every single comment. The most important one, click the notification bell so you are notified immediately. I would like to thank you so much for spending your precious time with me in this session today at Universal English with Happy. And remember one thing, great teaching is not about being perfect, it's about being passionate, reflective, and student centered. Take these strategies, try them in your classroom this week or whenever you want to, and watch your students' engagement transform. Until next time, keep inspiring your students every day. Happy teaching, everyone.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना।